think before we get started, I will first hand over to Shreya Mukherjee, who will introduce the session and we'll get started. Yes, Shreya.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Before we begin, I would just like to request you all to please keep your videos off and yourselves on mute unless you are speaking. I would also request you to please rename your Zoom handles to your name or the name of your organization. We will also be recording this session and sharing it with our networks. Please do keep your videos turned off if you are not comfortable. Please also post any questions you may have in the chat box. We will be monitoring these throughout the session and answering them at the end. So welcome to the third segment of Digital Dialogues. Thank you for joining us today. We are delighted to have you all with us. With the onset of the global pandemic, Dialogues at Toolbox India transitioned into digital dialogues in order to continue to have meaningful conversations with leaders and specialists in the social impact space. Our third edition, running throughout this month, is on post-pandemic vignettes, where we will be exploring how nonprofits can move forward with their organization management journey despite the pandemic raging on. We are delighted to have with us today Manoj Prabhu and Chetna Malviya, who will be discussing the role of emotional intelligence and adapting leadership styles for a new standard of working. Chetna Malviya is an emotional intelligence coach, leadership enabler, mindfulness instructor, and HR leader. In a career spanning more than 2 decades, she has been recognized for her extensive experience in the human resources function, with particular focus on creating leadership journeys, organization behavior, executive coaching, and employee relations. Manoj Prabhu is founder and lead coach at the Blackboard India, where he drives executive coaching, leadership development, and storytelling workshops. With corporate experience of over 2 decades and consulting experience of over 5 years, Manoj helps leaders across industry sectors to reconnect with their purpose and reinvent themselves. Thank you so much for joining us today, Chetna and Manoj. And now over to Vijaya Balaji. Thank you.
Thank you, Shreya. Thank you so much. Chetna, Manoj, without further ado, thank you so much for joining us, and we're absolutely delighted to have you here. You know, we titled this whole segment as the post-pandemic vignettes. Who knew that when we came out with this title, catchy as it sounds, we'd continue to go back through you know, reliving the disruption, which now seems to stretch the road to uncertainty. And I think this time around it's worse, because you actually move to a sense of normalization, and you know, you've suddenly taken a few more steps back. And I think that's what 2020 has really been all about, right? I mean, we saw 2020 bring in disruption in such a way that we saw organizations, whether they were pivoting what they were doing. We saw teams, you know, moving into a way to stay connected, to continue what they were doing. It continues to be difficult times for organizations, for leaders, and for team members, co-workers out there. And so really, I think that's really the background. And we know that this is going to continue for some more time. And irrevocably, there are things which have changed, which are never going to go back. I think across the world, societies do realize that. I think there's still the very optimist small percentage who say, you know, everything is going to be, you know, back to the way they were. But I think through this, we've also realized, organizations are also realizing that they found some of the things which actually seem to work better now. And it's almost become like the new norm. And so how do we therefore how do we adapt this as a more permanent solution? Now, whether it's going to be work from home permanently, whether it's going to be blended models, all of that are going to be there. But that's just one part of the story, right? Because Chetna, Manoj, the second part really is how are organization cultures being redefined? You know, we spoke a lot about empathy and understanding, and you know, there's no good time to have a bad conversation. And if you had to do difficult conversations earlier, it's gotten even more difficult. And these are some of the things I want to really touch upon. And while I know that the most of the focus largely is on how leaders are going to cope, what leaders are going to do, what CEOs are going to do. I want to flip the conversation. I want to ask the both of you also to touch upon really what should teams be doing, what should team members be doing, because is all the empathy to flow in only from somebody because they're the CEO, because they're the leader, because they're the founder? Is that the burden of expectation they carry with the title? Because I would think that we talk about shared responsibilities and shared purposes. So I hope we're able to cover a lot of this. And therefore, my first question, Chetna, to you is, what should we expect, as far as organizations functioning and culture building goes? What are the shifts that have come about and which we expect are here to stay? What are some of those new shifts which are coming about in the way organization culture is going to be built, and how organizations are going to function? Over to you, Chetna.
क्योंकि विजया ने बोला है कि ये सेशन अगर हम हिंदी में कर सकते हैं, और हिंदी ना ही सिर्फ हमारी मातृभाषा है, पर हमारे घर में हिंदी ही बोली जाती है, क्योंकि हम उस रीजन, शायद नॉर्दर्न रीजन में हम हिंदी ज़्यादा बोलते हैं। तो मुझे बहुत खुशी होगी अपनी भाषा में बोलने में। और तो मैं उससे शुरू करती हूँ। विजया, आपका जो प्रश्न है, तो सबसे पहले मैं आप सब लोगों से एक जो हमारी जब हम किसी से मिलते हैं, या हमें जो सिखाया जाता है, तो हम सबसे क्या कहते हैं? नमस्ते। तो मेरा नमस्ते आप सब लोगों को। और नमस्ते में 3 संस्कृत शब्द हैं। पहला है नम, जिसका मतलब है आई बाउ डाउन, या मैं आपके सामने शीश झुकाती हूँ। और अस और ते, जिसमें 2 लोग हैं, एक मैं और एक दूसरा जो मेरे सामने है। तो मेरे सामने आज जो ये ऑडियंस है, आज जो आप सब लोग यहाँ पर उपस्थित हैं, उन सबको मेरी तरफ से नमस्ते। और नमस्ते एक ऐसा शब्द है जो पूरे, जो हम बोलते हैं इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस, उसको पूरा सिर्फ ये 3 शब्द में, ये 3 वर्णों में, और जो एक शब्द है, इसमें हम देख सकते हैं। इसके बारे में मैं और चर्चा करूंगी, पर अभी विजया ने जो बोला, जो हम जिस दौर से हम ये गुजर रहे हैं, क्योंकि मैं बड़ी लखनऊ में हुई हूँ, तो मेरे शब्दों में सिर्फ हिंदी नहीं रहेगी, उर्दू भी रहेगी, क्योंकि वहाँ की भाषा ऐसी है। तो जिस दौर से हम इस वक्त गुजर रहे हैं, ये दौर हमें एक्चुअली हमारे लिए बिल्कुल नया है। हम लोगों ने इस तरह का समय कभी देखा ही नहीं है, क्योंकि हमने कभी ना महामारी देखी है, जो ये महामारी आज कोविड है, ये ना हमने महामारी देखी है इस तरह की, ना हमने जान के ऊपर जो जान के ऊपर इस वक्त बन आई है, वो देखा है। No, Revati, this is not going to be a Hindi session completely. I will be talking in English too. And I have Manoj who will compliment me, in talking in English too. तो ये आज जो ये disruptive times हैं, इसमें हमें इतनी तकलीफ हो रही है, तो ये दौर कभी हुआ नहीं। It's unprecedented. It is unprecedented. And the whole human society, the human race is actually reeling against it. It is disruption, and it is disruption like we have never seen before. ऐसा समय हमने कभी देखा ही नहीं है. And in such times, we don't know what to do. So organizations as well as human beings across the world are trying to adapt to it. Okay, and then we started with COVID. उस समय हमें पता नहीं था कि ये कितने दिन चलेगा, शायद 2 महीना, शायद 3 महीना, शायद लॉकडाउन के बाद सब ठीक हो जाएगा। But it kept on, and it kept on growing, and it kept on happening. And human beings, we cling to hope. तो हम भी उस होपफुल वे में हमने सोचा कि शायद ये साल भर बाद खत्म हो जाएगा, बट दैट डिसरप्शन हैज कंटिन्यूड एंड टुडे वी आर बैक. इनफैक्ट आज तो हमारी सिचुएशन पहले से भी ज्यादा बुरी है. अगर हम, और स्पेशली हम मुंबई में जो बैठे हैं, हम जो अपने आसपास देख रहे हैं. So the world will continuously keep disrupting. How we adapt to it, because human beings can really adapt. हमसे ज्यादा adaptability किसी में भी नहीं होती है. Homo sapiens, जो हमारी रेस है, as you know, when we look at it from an evolutionary perspective, तो हमारी सबसे ज्यादा adaptability होती है. और adaptability दिख रही है. ऐसा नहीं है कि वर्ल्ड कि लॉकडाउन हुआ और दुनिया सब खत्म हो गई और everything just stopped. No, organizations adapted, human beings adapted, and there was a new normal. This is the new normal. Today we are sitting having this dialogue with people across the globe. I see people from different countries also joining in. और ये human beings के adaptability के सबसे बड़ा चैप्टर है, जिसमें इस तरह से हमें अडेप्ट करने को कभी भी इतना फास्ट हमने कभी नहीं किया है. So it is actually unprecedented. And Vijay, to answer your question, we have seen organizations as well as individuals adapt to this new normal and move on with life, because life doesn't stop.
No, but Chetna, but if I were to make it a bit more specific in terms of saying that, when we're talking about adapting and we're talking about adaptability, which has almost become the superpower for organizations and individuals, what are the top 2-3 things that we're going to see the way, culture building is going to happen? Okay, in organizations, what is going to be there? And I don't want to be this about what we are doing or this thing, but what is the thing that we have seen that organizations will definitely have to sort of start practicing? And Manoj, do you want to kind of field that?
I'm okay if Chetna starts off. That's not a problem at all. Please go ahead.
Manoj, in fact, it will be good if you can give everybody a perspective of the organization, and संस्था कैसी होती है और संस्था के लोग जो होते हैं, how do they interact, and how does the whole organization come about to be, and how does culture come in over there? Maybe that will be a good starting point.
I think just a moment before we get started, I do see a lot of comments on the chat box. For us here at Toolbox, we've never seen the two parts of the world as separate as, there's a for-profit world and there's a non-profit world. We've always believed in convergence, and to have this very sort of black and white dichotomy view that, happy to learn, but corporates have no real clue about civil society. I think that's not a fair remark. Chetna has been associated with Toolbox for over 10 years. She does a lot of work pro bono for us, as has Manoj, who has been contributing. I think the whole point here is for us to have conversations. Nobody's coming in here as experts. So would request that, negativity not be really, put out on full display here. Thank you. Yes.
See,
yes, Manoj.
Vijay, I just want to take that point which you just mentioned. See, if you look at the way the comments have come in, it is in a space where it is remote. Somebody can sit in one place and put in a comment, an opinion, a view. Now, when you read what is written, it has a lot more impact on each one of us than when it is articulated with the tone of voice, with facial expressions, with the emotion that is attached to it, which is missing when somebody says something. Now, if I view, now as a person working in an organization, whether it is NGO or whether it is any other organization, if I view what is written here as a person raising a valid question and then respond to it, the way I would respond will be very different, as opposed to if I view that as, Arey, how is this possible? This is not something which we should be talking about. Now there is a very different response. Now the way it impacts my emotion. And Shashi, absolutely no problem in terms of the comment itself. But what is important, and what is important for us to learn from this is, how does it impact me? How does it impact my emotions? And therefore, how am I responding? And as a result of this response, what is the kind of emotions that I'm creating around? And what is the impact that it is having on everything around us? Now, take some of the points that he's mentioned. Everything is become corporatized. Everything is short term. Everything is looking in and around career, money, short term deliverables that have destroyed empowering cooperation. If I read that, what I see and what I hear is the anguish that comes with it, the kind of pain that the person is going through. Now, in the current dispensation, when people bring up such kind of queries, who is there to listen? And who is there to respond? Who is there to, I'm not asking for pacifying someone, but I'm asking in terms of, how do I even deal with something of this sort? Are we even prepared? So the point is this: there's an excellent book called On Being Human, written by a gentleman called Carl Rogers. He made an excellent comment. I hear the words that you speak. I hear the intent behind the words. I hear the meaning that is behind the intent. And I also hear something which you have not stated, but which you want to state. Now look at the layer at which it goes down when you are talking about it from the point of view of hearing, listening, etc. And it is just a simple matter of listening. The second thing would be to ask a question. What does this mean to you? And what is it that I need to understand from this?
Manoj, I agree with you. And in fact,
Okay, I have a slightly unstable. I have a slightly unstable internet. Sashi Kumar, I don't think the idea is to offend or, I think everyone has a right to have an opinion. I think my limited point is, let us listen to what this session is trying to address. We're more than happy to hear your thoughts, your opinions. I think what we always believe is that there are learnings on both sides, and I think that is what Toolbox has always been about. All our volunteers come from the corporate space. The whole idea is also the learnings that they take back from all our nonprofit partners. Idea is not to sit and function in silos. If you feel that my statement is unfair, I do apologize, but I would like right now to progress on the discussion. There will be time for the audience to voice your opinions. That is what dialogue has been about. It's not a webinar where we're just going to speak and people are going to listen. Coming back to what we were trying to talk about, Chetna, Manoj. Again, I really want to understand, as organizations function, what are the 2-3 things that we're going to have to, what are the things we're going to have to adapt? Everybody is saying we have to adapt, but what do we have to adapt to and how? I think if we can start with that, it will allow me to segue into other segments. So quickly, if the both of you can tell me, we're talking about building adaptive mindsets. Organizations have to adapt. We have to be agile. How should we be doing that?
So Vijaya, before I get into that and give a little bit of background, I just want to point out something which again happened here while we were talking about it. Shashi brought out a point, and you very nicely and very beautifully apologized for it, and things then now are moving on. In a face-to-face kind of a scenario, which is what used to be before the pandemic, it is easier to have these conversations and move on towards what needs to be achieved. When it comes to a environment of this sort, where I am interacting literally with my laptop and I see images here, I do not see a human being in front of me or human beings in front of me. It is very difficult for me to assess what is going on. Therefore, when people are talking in terms of adaptability, change, agility, etc., there are some basics that need to be in picture. But before I get to that basics, a little bit of a background. The first question that comes to the mind is, thank you, Shashi. I mean, it's an important interaction. It is important for all of us to learn from this. The first thing that comes to the mind is to ask the question, what is an organization and what is the purpose for which people come together? That forms the genesis of anything that we end up doing for an organization, whether it is profit, non-profit, any organization that you talk about. So the first thing that I would like to put on the table is something like this. Organization is a group of people who come together for a specific purpose. The purpose is defined, which can be either for profit or anything else.
No, but Manoj, I'm sorry. I have 1 hour and I'm still not getting to the crux of.
I'm just getting there, Vijaya. Give me a
Yes.
minute or two. I'm just getting there. There are two parts to this. So it can be for profit or non-profit, and there is a mission that the organization has, and people have to go after the mission. People who drive that mission are basically leaders / managers. By the very nature of the role that they have in the organization, they have to chase performance. And when I say performance, it can be in any form that you want to imagine it. But they chase people to ensure that performance happens. Now comes the layers. To chase performance, I can chase performance by pointing out, you didn't do this, you didn't do that, you didn't do the other. That becomes a style. And it is in this style that a huge shift and change that needs to happen for people to get to that performance level and helping others to get the performance. Chetna, this was the background that we were that you were referring to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you like to take on from here and talk about the emotional aspect now?
So Vijaya asked a very, very important question. Everybody is talking about adaptability. What does adaptability actually mean? Iska matlab kya hai? What are we supposed to do to make ourselves more adaptable, or what does it mean to be adaptable? So there are two things when such big changes happen. And why are we talking about adaptability today? आज के समय में अडेप्टेबिलिटी की बात इसीलिए कर रहे हैं क्योंकि डिसरप्शन बहुत बड़ा है. The change is so big. It is so it's staring right at your face. So today, not being adaptable is not a choice. You have to adapt, right? The two main, so adaptability can go on, and we can talk about only adaptability in a 3-hour session. But I'd like to give you two cues here, which are the foundations of adaptability. The first thing is to be able to be aware what is happening. So there is a lot of change, but all of that change is external, right? वो हमारे वातावरण में है, हमारे सब तरफ है. But how are we reacting to that change? What is happening to us, right? And I will take the example of what happened right now. So Shashi wanted to bring out something, उनको एक बात बोलनी थी, और उनको शायद इस फोरम में ये बात बोलनी थी क्योंकि because of something, right? And see, it was different, okay, and it was outside, and we felt that it needs to be addressed. मनोज को लगा, विजया को लगा कि ये बात को एड्रेस करना चाहिए, हम इग्नोर नहीं कर सकते बिकॉज ये है हमारे बाहर. क्या ये हमने प्लान किया था? नहीं. We had not planned for this, that Shashi will come and ask us a question which is not relevant right now in this particular topic that Vijay wants to talk. But he wants to say something. और वही environment है, उसे कुछ बोलना है. So then we have to accept and we have to listen to him because there is another human being talking over there. And that's what Manoj did. He left everything aside and he brought the humanity to the fore. And it is so sad that we have to teach people to be human because we are human, but somewhere we forget that. और ये जो शशि कुमार ने बोला है, जो corporatization की race है, you know, where we are talking about deliverables, we are talking about gains, we are talking about rewards, we are talking about recognition. Sometimes in that we lose our humanity, and I think that's what he's trying to say. And that is, and that it's, so it was very important Manoj pause everything and hear him out, because Vijay, until and unless we understand what is happening, we won't be able to respond to it in the right manner.
So just adding on to what Vijaya was very specifically trying to get at, what needs to change? Here are a few things which I would put on the table again for the discussion. One is the way we listen needs to change. When I'm listening to someone, am I wearing filters? What are those filters that I'm wearing? You know, here's a very beautiful story. There was this time when we were going out on a drive. We parked our car in a specific place to have nariyal pani. Right opposite that side was a small shop. There was a boy who got a donkey, and they were loading 2 sacks on the donkey. Both the sacks were kept on one side of the donkey, and the shopkeeper told him that, you know what, if you keep it like that, the donkey will not be able to walk properly. The boy just didn't believe him. Then he turned around to us who were standing there. We were in Bermuda, you know, with a car and all that. Says, you ask them, they should know better. They look educated. And the person asked, is it true? I said, yeah, of course it is true. We were amazed that he actually asked us. That boy was not willing to listen. The reason the boy was not willing to listen is because he thought the shopkeeper is just like me. How would he know better than I do? Whereas here is somebody who's sitting in a car, who's come driving and who's standing there in one Bermuda, and he should obviously looks educated. Now, what are the filters that we are using when we are listening? That is the most basic of things which needs to change. Today, are we responding and reacting and talking based on what is there in our minds rather than first listening? Parinita says can't hear. If anybody else has any challenges, please
So
let
Manoj,
us
Chetna. No. So first and foremost, I'm going to get somebody from my team monitoring the chat room because it's going to be distracting for the both of you and for me. So if there's anything, you know, Tiasha, Shri are monitoring the chat room. So please don't worry about that. I want to pick up on this, you know, because Chetna, Manoj, both of you talk a lot about emotional intelligence. Now, I know that in this forum, there are people who are, I'm sorry, I have to switch off my video because I have an unstable internet. I hope I'm audible. हमारे audience में, you know, individuals हैं जो organizations को manage कर रहे हैं, चाहे वो CEO position में है, senior managers में है, और सारे CEOs और senior management को पूरे, you know, especially पिछले 14-15 months में और भी बोला गया है कि, you know, आप ज़्यादा empathy display करो, आप ज़्यादा compassion display करो. All valid. I'm not debating that. And it is being demonstrated. काफी organizations, and I'm very proud of when many of our NGO partners जो इतने अच्छे तरह से थोड़ा सा blended models लेके आए, जो मतलब, you know, accommodating, you know, because they recognize people are important, the value that they are bringing is important. जो communities में अभी नए तरह का problems है, तो program का जो execution था वो काफी disrupt हो गया. They have been managing the donors as well, और ये हो रहा है. But my question is, yes, empathy, compassion, kindness, flexibility, सबको दिखाना चाहिए. पर मुझे लगता है थोड़ा सा जो CEOs होते हैं, थोड़ा सा जो founders होते हैं, you know, थोड़ा सा जो senior leadership management में होते हैं, वो चाहे वो rural NGO हो, urban NGO हो या जो भी है, you know, उन पे this burden of expectation is always there. और हम जो टीम के लोग हैं, टीम के लोग जो है वो I think this is a universal thing. ये नहीं है कि urban type में, urban areas में जो team के लोग हैं वो अलग किस्म के होंगे, अलग किस्म के होंगे. जो sense of responsibility और accountability है, वो क्या सिर्फ CEO, सिर्फ senior management का है, सिर्फ leader का है. क्या हम सब, अगर हम सब इधर जुड़े हुए हैं कि हमें एक मिशन फुलफिल करना है, हमारा एक पर्पस है, और मैं ये मानती हूँ और बहुत सारे मेरे साथ हैं जो ये मानते हैं कि हमसे बड़ा है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से बड़ा है उसका मिशन, और हमारा प्राइमरी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी रहता है कम्युनिटी की तरफ. आर वी नॉट अकाउंटेबल फॉर इट? हाउ डू वी देन ब्रिंग अप दैट अकाउंटेबिलिटी कि भाई ये होना है, आप वो सुबह 4 बजे करोगे या रात को 10 बजे करोगे, पर ये होना है, वी हैव टू डू दिस. हाउ डू वी ड्राइव दिस in very practical sense? How do we make it actually practically happen? Yes, over to the both of you.
See, there are two strands to this. One strand is from the team point of view, and the second strand is from the individual point of view. A one-on-one conversation is the smallest basic unit that any leader or manager or anyone from an organization will have to engage with the person who's finally going to execute what it needs to be done. Now, for the person to be able to execute what needs to be done, the person has to move 3 stages. That is from engagement to empowerment to ownership. Now, how does this work? It starts by the leader and the manager having a conversation which helps the person understand that this is what I need to do. Now, what does that look like? It looks like by starting off by saying that, you know what, this is our overall mission. These are some things which I expect from you. How would you like to go about delivering this? And then speak in terms of not the manager or leader, but the person who's sitting in front, who speaks in terms of this is action 1 I will do, this is action 2 I will do, this is action 3 I will do. Wherever the leader needs to help the person clarify that a little bit more, ask a lot more questions. Where the leader needs to instruct or add on, say that. But the difference in terms of how you do that is where the change needs to come in. This is what is technically known as contracting for success. Profit, non-profit, whatever organization you're talking about, ultimately the person who is executing it needs to have the confidence that I own it. When I do it, my leader will be supporting me because I have done it in the way it is expected to be done.
Okay.
Ultimately, that is where it lies. So that is at an individual level.
Okay.
Same thing at a team level. Now, at a team level, how many leaders actually have a team conversation where individuals in the team can contribute and together the team can go ahead and execute? This is the second vignette that we need to bring in. See, when a team goes through 4 stages of development, forming, storming, norming, performing, it's something which a lot of us know. The point is at each stage, there is a specific behavior that the team goes through. In the forming stage, the team always looks at the leader. In the storming stage, they're fighting with each other, but expecting the leader to solve the issues. In the norming stage, the leader slowly starts receding in the background and the team takes on a lot more ownership. And in the performing stage, the leader is just a figurehead.
So Manoj, this is interesting because can you just tell me, is this sort of dependent on the stage at which the organization is, or is it
at a broader level, the organization also comes into the picture. Okay. See, the point is at a broad level, you have multiple teams at different maturity stages. And in those teams which are at different maturity stages, they need to manage teams in these specific ways. See, I'll give you an example. And this is a lot of us would have watched this movie, Chak De India. You would see how Shah Rukh Khan builds the team from a team that doesn't even are a group of individuals. He starts by getting them to agree that we play for India. We are not from Haryana, or we are not from Karnataka, or we are not from this place. We play for India. That is the common purpose around which he builds that entire team. And then when it reaches the norming stage, the finals, the climax scene where he gets both the ladies together and say, how you are going to play tomorrow, I'm not going to tell you. But you should understand that the others know that you don't pass to each other. And he leaves them the decision to take what they need to do in the game. Now, in the performing stage, that is what the leader does. Now, let us understand this, okay? While people go through this, there are two kinds of things which we need to keep in mind. There is something called a wheel of learning. Now, why do I bring the wheel of learning? The entire process of moving people from A to B happens because of learning. And if learning doesn't happen, it doesn't work. A leader's whole and sole job in whatever organization that the leader is in is to ensure that this learning happens. And what is this learning about? This learning is from moving people from a situation A to situation B, where they go through 4 stages: reflecting, connecting, deciding, and doing. These are the 4 stages. Now, when we are talking about reflecting, it is the leader who gets them to reflect by asking the question, how do you think we can do this? Instead of giving an answer saying that you do it this way. Because the moment the leader says you do it this way, they are doing it for the leader. But the moment the leader asks, how would you like to do this? They are doing it for themselves, and they are getting supported by the leader. It is a very subtle difference, but it has a huge impact. And the leader helps them go through this learning cycle. Now, doing it on a one-on-one basis is easy. Imagine doing this in a group. Public reflection is one of the most difficult things to do for human beings, because if I make a statement, how will other people view me? Will they think I am an idiot for bringing out that whatever point I'm bringing out? That is what the leader does, what we technically call the psychological safety. And therefore, the emotions that the leader manages is at 3 stages when the leader is managing a team. The first stage is the leader himself. The second stage is individuals within the team. And the third stage is within individuals within the team, what is that emotional play that is happening around.
I'm just going to hold you to that point there, because I want to segue this a little bit into the whole emotional intelligence piece, Chetna. You know, we understand empathy, right? Because we've been told, be the empathetic leader, be empathetic, be empathetic. That's probably, we think that if we are displaying some amount of empathy, we've done. But I believe empathy sits alongside the responsibility, sits alongside accountability. And as Manoj also brought about, you know, even the point which he made about, which is very, very true, actually, you know, where you actually, the leader's job is to really to kind of navigate. You're like the sutradhar, you know, or like what Krishna had done with, you know, as a Sarathi. You kind of steer, you kind of get the teams to kind of do this. So what is the spectrum of emotional intelligence that not just leaders, but individuals in the organization need to kind of, you know, build. Now, emotional intelligence, again, I believe is now a science, Chetna. So some of it, we have EQ, may not have EI. EQ is part of your DNA, but EI is probably something that can be developed. It is a specialized thing. I would like for you to talk about that and how it therefore plays out in organizations.
So, Vijaya and Manoj has spoken a lot about the organization, but I will only say this. What is an organization? एक संस्था क्या है? So an organization is people, human beings coming together for a common cause. संस्था क्या है? बहुत सारे लोग आके एक common purpose fulfill करने के लिए साथ में आते हैं. So there are a lot of human beings over there, and a leader emerges out of those. So, or people elect the leader, or sometimes you may also have a leader who has a cause, and everybody. So who is the leader? Somebody who is followed by others. वही leader है जिसके पीछे follower हैं. So, so you're talking about human beings, you're talking about the leader who's a human being, you're talking about the followers who are human being, and that's what an organization is all about. हर संस्था में एक लीडर होता है और उसके फॉलोअर्स होते हैं. Now, what happens as an organization, when it is small, and you will also hear a lot of people say this, छोटा organization होता है, वहां आप सबको जानते हैं, आपको पता है कि सबकी लाइफ में क्या हो रहा है. You know basically everything about that person, whether they are having challenges at home, whether they have challenges with within the work, whether the work is challenging, resources are less, कोई भी challenges होते हैं, आपको पता रहता है कि आपके आसपास जो लोग हैं उन वहां पे क्या हो रहा है, उनकी लाइफ में क्या हो रहा है, प्रोफेशनली, पर्सनली, इमोशनली. But as we grow further, okay, and also even with small organizations, now that we have gone digital, तो हम किसी से मिल तो पा नहीं रहे हैं क्योंकि इतना लॉकडाउन है, and obviously offices are not functioning. So where are we talking from? We are talking from across a screen, or we are talking to people on phone. So you are not able to see people, you are not able to hear people you are hearing only what is being said, but the non-verbal cues, किसी के चेहरे पे अगर दुख है या सुख है, हमें कहाँ दिख रहा है? और because the conversations are also clipped, because mostly you will call people and say, okay, get this done, get that done, क्या ये हो सकता है, क्या वो हो सकता है, because everybody is trying to survive as an organization. The leader is also trying to organize and do as much. So sometimes those conversations can become shorter. And that is one of the reasons why everybody is being asked to be more empathetic, because empathy kya hai? And empathy is a very interesting word, because and I've studied around it and I've done a lot of research around it. Therefore, I can say that. So there are three things that empathy gets confused with. Empathy is not sympathy, and it is neither is it pity. Okay, so what is pity? You're going somewhere, you see a person who's begging on the road, you feel pity for him and you give him some money. Okay, you see something that so I'll give you an example. When somebody passes away in your family, okay, and it has happened to me, and people came and I was crying and they also started crying. Okay, but that's over. After that, when I meet that person, every time we don't cry, right? हर बार तो हमें रोना नहीं आता है जब हम उनसे मिलते हैं, पर वो सिचुएशन ऐसी होती है कि it creates sympathy. So you are mirroring the emotions of the person. But what is empathy? Empathy is something very different than sympathy and pity. Empathy is being able to walk in the other person's shoes and to be able to understand what that person is going through. क्या हम उसकी जगह पे अपने आप को रख के ये समझ सकते हैं कि वो उसके साथ क्या हो रहा है? And it is not only professionally, it could be personally, and there is so much going on in everybody's life right now. So you have children to take care of, your parents to take care of, आपकी खुद की तबीयत, आपका खुद का, आज अगर एक वैक्सीनेशन भी आप लगाते हैं, you are worried कि क्या बुखार आएगा, और अगर आएगा तो कौन है हमें देखने के लिए? तो क्या घर के सब लोगों को एक साथ वैक्सीनेट हो जाना चाहिए कि and I'm seeing those conversations happen in my own home with my parents, saying that let one person get vaccinated and let the other person get vaccinated after a week, because they can support each other. So there are a lot of personal things that are also playing out, and therefore this need and this conversation ki be more empathetic. आप उनकी बात भी समझिए कि वो कहाँ पे हैं, because it's very easy to understand and know where I am coming from. I need to get this work done, okay? But where is the other person coming from? That said, Vijaya, empathy is only one competency in the entire emotional intelligence suite. There are 12 competencies, and empathy comes in the third quadrant. The first thing is being self-aware. And how will you be aware? So like Manoj pointed out, listening. Are we listening? And are we listening without distraction? Because if I'm listening to you and there is a lot of distraction, I'm not going to be able to concentrate on what you are saying. And that is where, where we close out, we zone out from all the distractions and zone in only to the person. So if I'm talking to Manoj, can I clear my mind of everything? Because there's a lot going on in my life also as a leader, right? I have work, I have home, everybody has life, and there's a lot that is happening around that. So how do I keep all of that aside and then zone in and listen? Because it's very simple. If we just listen, we know. We human beings have that ability to be able to pick up from words, from non-verbal, verbal cues. And if you remember, if I ask you, which is the most hurtful conversation that you have ever heard, that somebody has ever said, the most hurtful things that people have said to you, you'll remember it in an instant. Okay. And because it stays with us, it hurts us and it stays with us. So we remember, you may remember. And if I unpack that further, there will be not much about the words that were said, but what they implied. What was the tone that they were said in? And Manoj pointed out at some point of time, that words are not just words, because you can just, it's not that you just write them. They invoke emotion in the on the other side. So if I just write to Vijaya saying, Vijaya, get this work done. Now I am writing, Vijaya, get this work done. Vijaya, get this work done. When I'm speaking, I'm able to pick up. So Vijay is able to pick up. Urgency hai kya? Okay. And is she respecting me? Who is she to ask me to do this? So we pick up subtle emotions even from words. And it is the emotions that disturb us. If I was to say, Vijaya, get this done, it's different than saying, Vijaya, get this done. So we pick up emotions, and they come from our state of mind, Vijaya. They come from a state of mind. Where are we at that point of time? And that is where empathy is required. But there are many other things also in the emotion. So empathy is not the only
No,
thing.
so I therefore come back to that, right? So that's why I come back to that. The fact of the matter remains is that we are all working from home, right? We are going to be working from home for the foreseeable future. We all have 50 things going through. It's difficult for us not to be distracted, for anybody. Cooker ki seeti ja rahi hai. You have other working members. Everybody is, patience is really a virtue which you need these days. um, and not everybody has the luxury of having a dedicated, isolated physical space, even in their living homes, to be able to do this. So distractions are going to be there. We're not able to have in-person conversations which actually allow for the tonal modulation and the body language, and to even demonstrate that we understand. Um, so what is the new norm? How do we make this happen? Should everybody therefore actually try and understand where the other person is coming from? Because that's all I'm going to take, that when I am harsh with a team member, maybe it's not just Vijaya having a bad day, but the fact of the matter is that this needs to be done and I slipped up and I haven't got it done. And not the default reaction to be to say, but you know what, even I'm working from home, it's been difficult. This is the reality. We can't use this. And by now we need to have different extensions of the various emotions that form the spectrum of us, to really be more, whether it's accountability, whether it's being responsible, or not to, quick to take offense that my supervisor just weighed in on me. That's where I'm going with this.
See, Vijay, you bring out an excellent point. If I'm reporting to you, if I'm part of your team, if I am working with you, what is my responsibility therefore? Okay. Now, here are a few statements. I'll just read the statements. And these are statements which we can all practice. I notice voice inflections and body language that give me deeper insight into the speaker's message. Do I actually make an effort to do that? When Vijay is shouting at me, am I hearing the intent behind it, or am I hearing the hurt that I am feeling because of what you have done. This is a very critical piece which we need to first start with. Another statement, I suspend judgment about the speaker or the topic being discussed. Do I do that? Do I get to do that? Or am I focused on the cooker CT that is going on, or something else that is going on, construction going on in and around my place? The stray dogs are barking out there. There is somebody who's at the gate and knocking and the bell is ringing. Multiple things which are there. The world is full of distractions, but can I have that focused conversation, shutting everything down? That is an ability which I need to build as a person who's responsible in the organization itself. I listen with the intent to completely understand what is being said, regardless of whether or not I agree with it or not. Now, this is an even important thing. Vijaya comes and says something, I don't agree with it. So I say, no, I don't agree. But am I making an attempt to understand what is it that Vijaya is saying? What is the purpose? Where is she coming from? Is there, if there is a better way, should I not ask Vijaya, see, I have something to discuss about that. Can we? Says, no, I don't have the time to discuss. Fine, then we will do it your way. Let us go ahead and do it. What's the big deal in that? The idea is to get things done. And finally, I'm comfortable with silence in the conversation. Now, if you look at it, this is the most difficult thing. When two people are talking and somebody keeps quiet, there is a huge attempt to immediately fill the silence with something which I have to say, I have to say, I have to say. Why is there such a huge that impatience to build this thing? Allow the silence to build, because it is in silence that you will find answers to some of the emotions and emotional upheavals that you are going through. These are some responsibilities that I have. See, in the Constitution, we have fundamental rights and fundamental duties. These are fundamental duties. It is not something which is enforceable by law. There are a couple of fundamental duties that are enforceable by law, but these are not something which is enforceable by anything or anyone. It is an understanding which we need to build. And here is where the culture needs to change. Earlier, I am having a face-to-face discussion, and it is okay for Vijaya to tell me whatever it is, and I will take it. And I will go to the wherever I need to get a group of people and group saying that no, Vijaya was very bad. She didn't say it. All that is okay. I have my outlet. I go ahead with life, but I don't have an outlet today. So am I, as a person who is working in an organization, making that attempt? That needs to change. And what is it that I, as a part of the team, contributing to the team to change, and I, as a leader, bring in that change itself within the system? See, one of the things which I don't agree much with is that the top man is the leader. It is not. Every human being today is in a position to lead and influence change. Do I take it upon myself to do that? Let us look at it. I'm trying to be part of a civil society and I'm trying to change the world. Why am I not even making an attempt to change what is there in my own little space, which impacts a larger thing? So if I'm going to fight for a cause, I need to first fight for it within the organization itself. That is where I lead, right? These are changes which I would like to see happening from a culture point of view.
Okay, it's 1 hour into the clock, and I want to throw open the entire forum to respond for questions, challenges which you may have had, things which you see happening. So throwing this open for people who would like to speak, would like to be heard, have a point of disagreement. Over to you. Over to you. Anybody out here?
Maybe even some challenges that people may want us to talk about.
हेलो
Hello.
हाँ नमस्ते मैं डॉक्टर मधुकर गुमले बात कर रहा हूँ महाराष्ट्र अमरावती से। ये जो तो परिस्थिति है ये तो सही बात है आपने जो बताया वो। मुझे लगता है अभी सबसे ज़्यादा प्रश्न ये है कि जो भी अभी पूरे नियम वगैरह बदल गए हैं, तो उसके कारण संस्था का काम नियमित रूप से चालू रखना और कार्यकर्ताओं के साथ जो भी हम लोग इतने सालों से काम कर रहे हैं और गांव में काम कर रहे हैं, तो ये तो सब जरूरत है। लेकिन अभी इस स्थिति में एक तो पूरे बहुत ही कठिन परिस्थिति जा रही है। तो जैसा कि एक तो एफसीआरए का अकाउंट बदलना या बाद में ये TG12A के बारे में,
हाँ जी,
तो सभी दिक्कतें दिख रही है और फंड्स मोबिलाइज करना, ये भी एक संस्था लीडर के सामने बहुत चैलेंज है।
करेक्ट।
तो इस विषय में हम लोग चाहते हैं कि यानी ठीक है, कॉर्पोरेट फंड से खर्चा करना या कैसा करना, तो आपका कुछ सुझाव होगा तो आप थोड़ा बताएंगे तो हम लोगों को अच्छा लगेगा। धन्यवाद।
डॉक्टर जी, मैं ये जो आप 12A ATG FCRA के आप बता रहे हैं, ये अनफॉर्चुनेटली सारे संस्थाओं के ऊपर आया है। अभी जो FCRA लाइसेंस है, उनको तो बोला गया है कि आपको SBI में ही अकाउंट खोलना है, और ये नियम जो सरकार ने दे हैव जो इंट्रोड्यूस किए हैं, वो हमें फॉलो ही करना है। तो उसके कारण ये हो रहा है कि जो छोटे ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस है, सारे कार्यकर्ता इसी में लगे हैं, उनका पूरा अटेंशन इस पे है। मेरा ये मानना है आप ज़रूर इस पे ध्यान देना होगा, क्योंकि अगर ये नहीं है, आप जो काम करना चाहते हैं वो चाहते हुए भी आप नहीं कर पाओगे अगर ये नहीं है। रही बात फंडिंग की, उसका तो अनफॉर्चुनेटली कोई सिंपल सॉल्यूशन नहीं है। हम हाल ही अभी पिछले 2 दिन में हमने पूरा फंड रेजिंग का 2 दिन का पूरा हमने सेशन कराया था, जहाँ पर ये साल भी फंडिंग जो मिलना जो आशा रख रहे हैं बहुत सारे ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस को, संस्थाओं को, वो थोड़ा मिलना थोड़ा सा मुश्किल ही रहेगा, क्योंकि जो CSR का फंडिंग है, वो पैसे काफ़ी कुछ मतलब थोड़ा बहुत एलोकेशन होगा, पर अभी ये नियम भी आया है कि CSR के पैसे भी जो खुद के कॉरपोरेट के जो एम्प्लॉयज है, उनका वैक्सीनेशन का खर्चा भी उसमें जा सकता है। तो उस कारण डेफिनेटली जो छोटे ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस है उस पे ज़रूर इम्पैक्ट होगा डॉक्टर गुमले। पर मेरा ये एडवाइस रहेगा कि आप 12A ATG FCRA पे जो ध्यान देना है वो आप प्लीज दीजिए, उस पे आपको अटेंशन देना ही होगा। ओके,
थैंक यू मैडम।
थैंक यू। एनीबडी एल्स?
अभी
Kumar has
अकाउंट
his hand raised.
Hello.
हो गया है।
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes. This is Maria Lena from Torpa.
Yes.
This is an NGO called Torpa Rural Development Society for Women, and we are mostly into livelihoods and education. Now, I want to really commend you, Vijaya ji, Chetna ji, and Manoj ji. It was a wonderful interactive session on emotional intelligence.
Thank
But
you.
I just would be happy if you could address a bit more change and leadership. You know, when we are talking about these uncertain times and the need for change, I'm talking about the team. You know, how can we empower the team? How can we bring out the best in the team? Because all our leaders at this time, you know, at this time of uncertainty, the best comes out from each one. So if you could address this a bit more, is how do we cope, our own coping skills in times of change?
Okay, so I'm going to give a time check of about 3 minutes each to Chetna and Manoj to respond. Over to the both of you.
Surely. So for that, this is a very, very interesting question, and it's a question that has been well researched across the world. So what is change? Change is anything that is away from the normal functioning. जो आज चल रहा है उसमें कुछ भी बदलाव आता है, that is change, right? Now, how does a human mind perceive change? The human the human brain has three parts. Okay, and we have the part that we have no control over, which is the part that allows us for blood pressure and breathing. A lot of Can you guys hear me?
There seems to be a lot of noise. I don't know where it is coming from.
Or can you help? Yeah.
Yeah.
The sound seems to have ceased. Yeah. So there is a part of our brain that is responsible for normal functions. We cannot control it. That is the limbic part of the brain. The second part of the brain is our emotional brain, and that is where emotions reside. And there is, and bear with me for a moment, because I think everybody needs to understand that with respect to the change that we are going through. So there is a small part of the brain which resides on both sides. It's called the amygdala. And that amygdala is basically the center that responds to change. And for the amygdala is basically there in your brain to help you survive. So what it does is that the moment it sees change, it alerts you that there could be danger. Because what did change mean a couple of years, 100, 200 years back? It meant that the grass moved, so there could be a lion, there could be a tiger, there could be an elephant, there could be danger. So any change, our brain is programmed to detect any kind of change and to first inform us and get us ready for danger. And that is what controls the emotions. We have a third part which actually is quite responsible for making us for making us human and for getting us to have so many, take so many strides and sit on the top of the food chain. And that is the rational part of the brain. Unfortunately, the amygdala has so much control that if it senses danger, it just shuts down the cognitive brain, or the frontal part of the brain, and gets ready for danger. And what are the three things that it gets ready for? Fight, flight, or freeze. And all of you would have heard of this. And that is what the amygdala gets you ready for. Now, when we see change and disruption like COVID-19 or 20, and now even 21, when we go through a life-threatening change like this, we are very worried. The mind is very fearful. The brain is saying, what if you were to lose your job? What if you were to, what if your manager doesn't like you? How will you survive? Today, you cannot go out and do things. You are sitting at home and you don't know from where the virus will come from. And, so your entire survival is today threatened. So you are becoming overtly sensitive to anything that people are saying. And therefore, with that, keep that in mind and now look at a leader and their people's interactions. So somewhere the leader is saying, if I don't get this organization to work, it may close down and it will affect everybody. Okay, so that is that fear that the amygdala is bringing. So you want to survive. So survival is what is pushing it. And on the other hand, you have the people below the leader who are saying that, if my boss is talking to me like this, what does it mean? And somebody pointed out that, there are layoffs happening. Organizations are not able to manage themselves. Why are the funds that Vijay was just talking about, why are those funds not flowing through? Because organizations have not had a great year last year. So the funds in itself have shrunk. Out of those funds, they want to support their own employees first for vaccination and all of that. And then whatever is left will then go to the communities. So everybody is currently battling for survival. And so are we. When we are sitting in our individual houses, we are fearful of COVID. We are fearful of what will happen to our jobs. We are fearful of how we will survive this entire thing out. So while adaptability is happening, at the back of our mind, survival is what gives rise to fear. It gives rise to anxiety. It gives rise to all of those emotions.
I also think adaptability, Chetna. I think survival instincts also drive adaptability in an individual and organizations. But one thing, to the third team, one thing I think a message that we need to send out to everybody is that for all of us who have the luxury of being able to work from home, it is truly a privilege. And the faster everybody recognizes it, I believe that the treatment of what we are expected to do will change. Because as we speak, और जितने ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है यहाँ पे, आप अपने कम्युनिटीज में आप काम कर रहे हो, आपको पता है, when we see gas delivery agents carrying cylinders, when we see people who have to step out to work, जितने लोगों को work from home, usko we should not see it as something that has been forced. We need to see the privilege in it. And I think that is the conversation that everybody needs to have and understand and recognize. तभी लोगों को समझ में आएगा कि भले ही मैं चार दीवारों के बीच में मैं बैठ के मैं काम कर रही हूँ, that is a privilege. And with that privilege comes responsibility. With that responsibility comes accountability. That would how I would look at it. Any other questions?
Can I speak?
Yes, please.
Yeah. I think things like emotional intelligence, I think this topic has come at a very right time. I just want to add on to what Madhukar Gumle ji said. अभी जो मधुकर गुमले जी ने जो बात की थी, I think one possible challenge or why we are not able to take on this challenge is सब सारे चीज इकट्ठा एक साथ ही आए हैं. See, we are crowded with so many problems together. One is, as Chetana was saying, it's a matter of our survival. And when it relates to the organizational survival, our legal identity itself is at stake. और 12A करो, re-registration करो, ATG करो, FCRA re-renewal करो. So I do agree with Dr. Gumle sir. That is one thing. All things have come at one time. So we are not able to prioritize. We are not able to digest. Secondly, I'm making this statement with a due care. We as an NGO are very good in preparing our community for taking on various disasters or the challenges. But when it comes to ourselves as an NGO, as a civil society organizations catering to a society at a large, at a different spectrum, we have fallen into two stools. We have a difficult challenge because on one hand, if you look at it, I think in the month of March last year, when Corona was at its peak, every week we were getting letters from Niti Aayog. So our existence, the involvement of the NGOs, the participation of the NGOs for this kind of action at this time is well understood, well accepted. NGOs themselves have done a lot of relief work, whether it is earthquake, famine or flood. But this kind of a pandemic which has put a lot of restrictions on your mobility and
Yes.
getting on that journey from, where we have to deal with the community, and if you have to suddenly, if somebody start telling us that keep distance, social distancing, so I think the whole concept of adaptability starts from that. कि हमें
Absolutely.
खुद को adjust करना है, align करना है. I put it in a chat box also. Align करो, फिर उसको accept भी करो. These kind of
Correct.
adjustments that we have to face.
नहीं,
Now,
वो acceptance, I think आप एक बहुत you brought out a very relevant point. हमें accept करना है.
yes.
Acceptance makes the battle that much more easier. हम हमेशा बोलते हैं कि resolving an argument starts by accepting when both parties accept that they were wrong. तो वहीं पे खत्म हो जाता है. So we have to accept कि life has changed, organizations जो चल रहे हैं, they have changed. और ये भी सही है कि organizations चलाते वक्त difficult situations और conversations भी करना ही पड़ेगा. There will be people who will be let go. It is not personal. Performance will continue to to also be as important, and maybe the conversation will be a little bit more gentle, but that doesn't take away the accountability that individuals, that all of us have to the salaries we draw.
Absolutely. That goes without saying. That goes without saying. But the corporate funding, that is, I'm coming to the resource mobilization part, which is also a big challenge. No, even the Ministry of Corporate Affairs have made it mandatory that for any kind of corporate partnership, we need to register both corporates as well as NGOs. So the point that I'm trying to make is we are surrounded with so many challenges along with this important pandemic, and that is where the way ahead, आगे कैसे जाना है, survival of the fittest भी है, accountability भी है. We know though we are sitting at home, we have been paid by the organization, so our responsibility, our accountability, our responsibility, all is important. But वो जो dilemma में हम लोग जो फंसे हैं ना, I think that
No, you're right, because this also brings up what Shashi Kumar brought up earlier on as well. Look, the fact of the matter remains, and these are public forums, so there is also a bit of political correctness which has to be flavored in what we're saying. But the fact of the matter is, civil society organizations, their very existence is under threat. They have mired civil society organizations with such a high degree of multiple compliances, starting with the compliances, disclosure of information, management, reporting, and multiple apex bodies that one has to report to, कि मतलब साल भर people will keep doing this. उनको मतलब program के लिए attention is going to be so diverted. We all know about the number of individuals who are leaving the boards of NGOs. They don't want to be there because they want personal details, they want to link Aadhaar, they want to link PAN card. कहीं और नहीं है, पर इधर आ गया है. So, and even though there is a very, very public acknowledgement by the highest authorities that civil society organizations have supported society at every level during the pandemic, चाहे वो migrant crisis हो, food distribution हो, PPE kits हो, volunteering, the number that has been done, the sheer amount of work that has been done. I want to go on to Havavi's question. Havavi, do you want to just raise this question yourself to Manoj and Chetna? I will give 5 minutes to respond, and at 12:30 I'll be closing the session. So Havavi, over to you.
Just a small question, actually, that in this time there's also lots of conflicts that team members have between themselves, right? And I've often got into a situation where I feel as if I have to solve the problem, and it has been a learning for me over the year that actually that's not the best way to do it, and get into a more enabling mode and things like that. And yet there's also the thing that you don't want to give people the feeling that you're stepping back and leaving them on their own. And sometimes I find it difficult to balance those two aspects. I wonder whether you'd have any suggestions for someone like me.
Manoj, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm going to give 5 minutes, because after that Sasi Kumar has raised his hand. We'll take his question, and that will be the last for the day. Yes, please.
Sure. See, let's get to understand this. There are 3 skills which are required to manage any conflict. Influence, influencing skills is one, managing conflicts is another one, and negotiation is another one. These 3 skills go hand in hand. So it's important to understand that at different stages in managing the conflict, different skills will come into the picture. The second thing that we must keep in mind is that if the conflict is between 2 people, you can facilitate the resolution of the conflict, but you need not yourself take the ownership of solving it. And there's a very subtle difference, but very important difference. If you take the ownership of solving it, then they will look upon you to give the solution. If you facilitate the process of solving, then the solution will come from either of them or both of them together, both the parties, so to speak. Now, while you are trying to solve anything related to conflict, there are about 6 things which you need to keep in mind. There is values, there is relationships, and there is these moods and emotions and things like that which are associated with it. These are three areas which is unsolvable. And when I say unsolvable, I will come with my values, my own beliefs. I have my own emotional state at this point in time because of various things which I'm going through. I also have things related to relationship with the person, which I have been carrying as a baggage for a period of time. If any attempt is made to solve any of these three items, we may not necessarily get to solving the problem itself or solving the conflict. Therefore, the best way to solve any conflict is to look for data. How do you go about having the conversation to solve the problem, and then the interest. The key piece is to get to the interest, which is the common interest that everybody has. There will be conflicts, definitely, but there is always a common interest. And to solve that common interest or to achieve that common interest is where the solution for any conflict is. Once that is achieved, now when I say structures, what I'm trying to get at is you can have a conversation saying that, okay, fine, here is how we are going to do it. You will state your point, and while you're stating your point, you will keep quiet. You will then state your point. While you're stating, you will keep quiet. Once we have all the information, I will do the summary. And once the summary is there on the table, then we will identify what is the issue where you are having conflicts. Now, while I'm making this as a structure or some conversation of this sort, then I'm trying to look at it from the point of view of give me your data, give me your data. Let us try and put together a structure to this. And let us try and find out what is the common interest that we have for which we need to solve the problem. There will be some amount of influencing you need to do to get people to move a little bit from one end to the other. You may also need to negotiate with some people because saying that, okay, fine, yeah, you give up this part in another area or in another this thing, you can take something else. So these are three skills which go together, and therefore this is one way, and this is a very short answer, okay? One way of solving a conflict related thing.
Can I also add to that? Manoj, I think that was brilliant. That was a great method. See, remember, conflicts come out of emotions. Okay. And where does a conflict come from? When there are two people, and you're talking about two people in your team, right? So two people have a relationship. And every relationship is based on two things. One is trust and the other is respect. If either of them is challenged, there will be a conflict. Now, as a leader, we can only oversee, but that relationship has to be sorted by them, the two individuals involved. Okay, so help them recognize where they are coming from, the emotional planes that are coming from, and then while gently overseeing, like Manoj said, it may be more, they will have to solve it themselves, because if you bring in yourself into the equation, then it becomes a triangle. Okay, so helping them sort it, helping both of them individually, coming to terms with their emotions, where what they are feeling, and then going out and resolving it. But definitely, you can't just let them be, because people will just do then whatever they feel like. So establishing some rules, but allowing people to manage their own differences is what I'm saying.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So, Sashi Kumar, if you're here.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes.
Thank you for giving me the time. And I realize it's very little time, but I still want to just start with and say that, look, I had no intention of taking this off track. I have actually come the full circle. I have come from social to corporatization, and then I'm going to the other side to say, sorry, there's a gross difference. Anyway, that's a debate for another day. What I was going to say is an example, state as an example that I have seen used by many NGOs on the ground. When their money gets short, then the entire team actually pools in whatever they have, whatever their salaries are, and shares it with the rest. So nobody is going hungry at that point of time.
True.
And I'm just thinking, why are the big NGOs not able to do that?
Well,
That's for me one question. And the second question is, for those who are on the cusp of corporates as well as social agencies, why can't we ask the corporate agencies, instead of focusing all their money into their programming alone, that will give them brownie points and advertising space, why not share it, make it a pool that's available for NGOs across this country? So, changing corporates from delivering goods to actually getting NGOs to deliver it will be a great step and will keep NGO space open. That's all. Thank you.
So Sashi, thank you for that, because as you were speaking, the very same thought was in my head. I don't know how much you know about us at Toolbox India, but in our 10th year of existence, we're very proud to stand tall, doing all our work for nonprofits pro bono. We are an intermediary organization. My entire program is volunteer driven. I have wonderful individual volunteers who do it. Now, as far as what you're saying, yes, I think within the nonprofit world, it's not even a dichotomy, it's fragmented. Within the nonprofits, I think as you're chasing the scale dream, because you want to deliver impact at scale, you are going to start corporatizing a few things. There is the flavor of the community-based organizations, which really show us how close-knit teams are actually working. If you actually look even now, the budgets and the sheer diversity in the size of operating budgets in organizations is so varied. There is a skewed distribution of philanthropic capital where 80% of the capital goes to 20% of organizations. It's still, we're seeing the same organizations. No disrespect. Everybody is doing great work. To your point about allocating money for non-programmatic costs, I think that is something which, if you've read the Bridgespan report about pay as it gives, there is going to be an extremely ambitious commitment taken on by a consortium of donors who are willing to put their money in everything which is non-program spending, whether it is funding a salary, funding an accountant, funding rent, funding electricity. Okay, they're willing to do that. So the world is waking up to it, Sashi. It's not they're not. Corporates, again, I quit corporate a long time ago. I have wonderful volunteers like Manoj and Chetna and Kalpana, and we run 100 projects a year, all done by corporate volunteers in their individual capacities. Now, corporates, I think, and yesterday when we were talking about the types of capital, I think corporate capital comes with so many riders because it is a corporate social responsibility. There are a lot of checks and balances there, and I'm very sure you're aware of all of them. In the other company that I set up and I manage, we work as impact evaluators for a lot of CSRs. It's very clear, I sit before CSR committees who are also, some of them who are sitting on investment committees of corporates, and the quantification of impact, the sustainability of what we're doing, these are hard questions that everybody is being asked. I think when we're extending the compassionate lens, Sashi, I think we have to just extend it to even the corporates. Ultimately, somebody is selling credit cards, somebody is selling insurance loan applications, somebody is pushing a mobile SIM card, which does get us, which does generate some profit, which is then being flowed back. I think in that sense, to have the 2% CSR is a good thing. India is the only country which is mandated by law to actually give that 2%. But I hear you. There is a dichotomy, not a dichotomy. There is a lot of fragmentation in the nonprofit world where you have different kind of organizations. Um, Toolbox has, we champion a lot for the smaller bootstrapped nonprofits, which is why we do so much work pro bono for them in whatever way we can. It may not be solving for everything. None of us can solve for everything. But 10 years later, we are very proud that, we are able to hold our heads high up, working with about 650 nonprofits. And it always therefore fills me with a lot of humility, and it's such a source of joy for me to see when I see organizations who've been following us through the years, who tune in, because these conversations for us, digital dialogues is really just talking about what's out there. All of us are not going to walk away with a prescribed solution, right? But I think it helps to talk, because that's how we're sharing what's going on. We're trying to understand a little bit more. Yes. I know we've just hit 12:31. I'm going to take a stop here. I think people, for all of you tuning in, these conversations are really trying to talk about what could be some of the ways that we look at things. You heard Kalpana last week, you heard Manoj and Chetna. You will hear Austin and Rachna next week, where they're going to talk a lot about mindsets, the shift in mindsets, perspectives that we need to watch out, the way consumer mindsets and societal mindsets are shifting, which actually have an influence on the way we are communicating and the way we also look to tap into to giving, to retail giving. What will it take for individuals to give? I know some of you have been following us on our SIO program, so this will bring in practitioners. The next two people who are speaking are people who understand, who've spent more than 2 decades of their life studying consumer behaviors. So that's the thing we will talk about. For all of you who have tuned in, thank you so much. And Chetna and Manoj, thank you very much. Like I said, it's 90 minutes, but there's only so much that we can talk. But it's been lovely. I do know that there are people in the audience who have requested that I connect them with you. I shall be introducing you all on email. Thank you very much. And people, if you like what you hear, please comment on our social media handles. Um, um, we don't claim to know much. We are learning with you, from you, and bringing only what we are learning along the way. And a social media comment is more for us to take away that tiny little bit of validation for ourselves, that okay, we're we're hopefully on the right path, and we are not messing things up. Yes, Sashi, we are on Instagram. We are there, Toolbox India Foundation, Social Lens Consulting. We are on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Thank you so much for joining us. See you all next week. Stay safe. God bless you all. Have
Thank
a
you so
lovely
much.
weekend.
Thank you so
you.
much, and namaste to all of you.
Thank you.
Namaste to all of you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chetna, Manoj. You liked it? Balaji, you want to say hi to Manoj Prabhu?
Is he going to say hi finally?
He's not well, so he's clutching his stomach. He's having a bad stomach, so
So bad.
something
What happened to your hand?
I have rheumatoid arthritis, so every now and then it flares up.
Have you got the vaccine?
Yes. पहला dose हो गया, अभी दूसरा dose है a week later. What about you?
No, I have to.
Go get it done.
Yeah, we have to go.
Even I have to. So I'll go get it done. Okay, I think we can stop recording.
Yes, the
And,
recording is stopped, and
I will